COVID-19 is almost over, and what a year it has been, from government shutdowns to public health hazards to a divisive impeachment. Here are all the details on the biggest stories from the past 12 months. The year began in the middle of another government shutdown stemming from President Trump's demand for more than $5 billion to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. The standoff finally ended after 35 days when the president agreed to a temporary spending bill without getting his wall funding. Following the shutdown, President Trump declaring a national emergency along the southern border, giving him the authority to redirect funds from other departments to pay for the wall. Boeing taking a big hit this year after two deadly crashes, prompting the global grounding of their popular 737 MAX planes. The company coming under fire for allegedly failing to properly train pilots on a new anti-stall system. Federal prosecutors arresting more than 50 people in the largest ever college admissions scandal. Many of those arrested were high-profile celebrities like Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin. They're accused of paying for a number of illegal services to help get their kids into college. Winter ending with a political bombshell. The Mueller report finally released after more than a year of investigations. The major findings: no illegal collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. Progress in the war on terror. In March, the last territory held by ISIS liberated by U.S.-backed Kurdish forces. 7 months later, President Trump announcing ISIS leader Baghdadi was killed when U.S. Special Forces stormed his compound in Syria. In April, a major fire breaking out at the famed Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, destroying the spire and most of the roof. More than $1 billion has been pledged to help finance the reconstruction effort. Easter Sunday, a series of explosions rocking Sri Lanka. Terrorists targeting churches and hotels with homemade bombs, killing more than 250 people and injuring hundreds more. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attacks. Measles outbreaks in New York City and the Pacific Northwest spiraling into a nationwide health crisis. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention saying the outbreak is the worst since 1992, affecting more than 1,200 people in 31 different states. Dorian, the first and most powerful storm of the 2019 hurricane season, creating destruction in the Bahamas and much of the Caribbean before moving to the eastern U.S. In early June, mass protests break out in Hong Kong. Hundreds of thousands in the streets to demonstrate against what they see as an erosion on their democratic rights. Those protests are still ongoing, with Beijing possibly inching closer to ordering a military crackdown. President Trump taking a step into history, becoming the first sitting president to set foot on North Korean soil, marking the third time President Trump met with Kim Jong-un. The deadliest mass shooting of 2019 happened at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. 22 people killed and many others wounded by a suspected white nationalist. The next day, 10 people left dead during another mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio. Despite calls for action by gun control advocates, no new legislation has been passed by Congress. The arrest of wealthy political donor Jeffrey Epstein dominating the headlines in late summer. He's accused of running a sex trafficking ring involving dozens of underage girls. Epstein died in jail while awaiting trial in Manhattan. The Bureau of Prisons ruled it a suicide, and 2 guards who were on duty at the time are facing criminal charges. Another major health crisis sparked by the rising popularity of vaping. Dozens of people killed, hundreds more sickened. The crisis eventually spreading to nearly every state, with lawmakers now calling for new regulation and stronger restrictions to keep vaping products out of the hands of children. Tensions between President Trump and congressional Democrats finally boiling over in the late summer. Democrats accusing President Trump of asking the president of Ukraine to investigate the Bidens in return for the release of hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. military aid. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing the start of an impeachment inquiry in September, followed by public hearings 2 months later. The impeachment polarized Washington, leading to nearly unprecedented gridlock. The president says he did nothing wrong, calling the controversy just another witch hunt. After weeks of hearings, the House voting to impeach the president. Looking ahead to 2020, it will be a massive year for news. The presidential election will dominate the headlines as Democrats look for a nominee and the president looks for 4 more years. We're also keeping a close eye on the next move in the impeachment proceedings against President Trump. And of course, we'll be here for all of it. Until then, Audrey Kuchin, Fox 61 News.